Good. Hey, Scott. All right. So what I'm going to do today, I've run into an issue. Basically, I've been rather than, well, let me put it like this. My focus is more on the tools and making sure everything is working properly and making that, the best possible, as good as possible. And so I've been doing that rather than focusing on a presentation because I want this stuff to be flawless. I guess I don't know if I'm a perfectionist or just obsessive, but probably just obsessive. At any rate, what what I've run into, and I was up till 1:30, I guess, working on this last night, and then up again at 6. Um, there's an issue right now with Blackbird. I'm sure Jeremy will fix this, where I was fumbling around for a little while trying to figure out what was going on, and it's not handling multiple time frames. So inside of Bloodhound and Blackbird, well, inside of Bloodhound, you can add in multiple time frames here. Let me show you. So at any rate, this was essentially what set me back that and trying to really make this template, this strategy as accurate and as good as possible. So in Bloodhound, you can add in multiple time frames here. And that's what I had done to create some trend conditions so that, I could only allow longs in a certain condition and only allow shorts in another. So that was causing Blackbird to just simply not work right at all. Okay, so I finally figured that out. So what I'm going to do, instead of going into everything that I had wanted to do, I'm going to run this in Market Replay now, since I've got it hooked up and ready to go, and show you a little bit about Blackbird first, and then we'll go back through some of the stuff I have kind of already, working flawlessly in Ninja 7, just to give you an idea as to what exactly it is that we do and how we piece together the volume and market geometry analysis. So let's just go ahead and do it here. It's weird little graphics things here. Okay, cool. Hey, Tim, Tony. So let me do this first. So I've been working on these templates for years, literally. And obviously we started off with NinjaTrader 7. And just to give you an example. So what I've done, let's start up here. So I have a series of charts at different time frames, and I have Bloodhound on 2 of those charts. I have all of the market geometry conditions in 1. So yes, we are actually able to access the trend lines and channels and anything that we can draw with this toolbar. We can access from any of those other charts, even this volume profile, from within Bloodhound using this reader system that we've built out here. Okay, so the way that I've designed this, and this, I've been back and forth a few different ways, a few different methods and sections of conditions, how to split them up and how to make this thing as efficient as possible, so that, I could still see when certain conditions are happening. Maybe not, it may not be happening to the degree that I would actually enter a trade, but when I piece everything together, when I combine all of the market geometry conditions all of the volume and divergence conditions together. With every new rule, you're limiting yourself. You're limiting, obviously, the total number of trades. And, you know, you would think that with more rules and filters, you're somehow making those trades that you do find, those trades will be better. But that's not always the case with trading systems. It's kind of a fine line between total number of rules and what you're willing to allow. So you have to have some kind of middle ground. You don't want to have so many rules that, you know, with each new rule, you have degrees of freedom in statistics. So typically the worse the performance will be. And we want to try to avoid curve fitting, obviously, and we don't want to have so many rules that it just becomes ridiculous. But long story short, what I've done so that I'm at least able to see when these certain things are happening with different sections of conditions, I've split everything out. So I'll have all of my market geometry conditions in this template. And let me just give you kind of an example of how that works. So this would be the chart. And this chart, it says it's a row 2, but it's basically, it's more or less about the equivalent of a 2-minute chart during the day session. All right, give me 1 second here. Yeah, let's just use this one. All right, so this is one of the largest charts on this workspace. And it's about the equivalent of a 15-minute. And I'll just delete all of that. And I'll show you the toolbar for Ninja 8 here in a minute as well. It's not, you know, it's nowhere near ready, but it's almost in a state where I can release a first kind of sort of like a pre-alpha version, if there is such a, if I can say that. All right, so anyway, I've got the market geometry template inside of Bloodhound over here on the right, and I'm accessing the chart. I'm accessing all the charts, but let me just show one. So I'm opening up the Bloodhound template, and I'm going to connect only this, what is that, 11,250 tick chart. And you see I have this nice and neatly organized here. So for each market, I have essentially 4 main charts that I'm drawing on the market geometry. This is a smaller tick chart about the size of a 3-minute. And this is the larger tick chart here. Okay, and these are split into 2 groups. So I'll have to have an area touching, I'll have to have a bar touching at least one area from either of the 2 larger charts, and then another area from one of the 2 smaller charts. Okay, so I'm just going to connect only that tick chart on the left. Okay, now in real time, with every new bar that comes in, with each tick, it's checking whether it's touching or within distance. I mean, there's a lot of different properties and conditions built into this indicator, this reader. But without going into too much detail, what it does is it gives me access to all of these different, baseline is essentially like a trend line, all of these different areas that I'm able to draw with this market geometry toolbar here. Okay, so the auto lines, those are like the channel lines of a trend channel. The kiss goodbye line, I'll show you that in a moment. And then all of the different median lines, I can draw median lines, shift median lines. Basically, I can do everything in 2 clicks that would normally take I think about 10 or 12 clicks, and then, having to go and find the drawing tool and all of that. Okay, but I'm also able to set the direction of the signals based on price action, based on, whether I'm drawing from high to high or low to low, and which line, which area I'm actually using inside of the indicator, which ones I have turned on here. Okay, so long story short, that enables me to get, any of these, get access to any of these lines that are produced here. Okay. So pretty incredible programming, really, that we can even do any of this type of stuff on one chart, accessing, areas from another chart. So let me just kind of show you an example here. That's actually a really good example. So that is basically the high before the first high or low. So it's the first high after that major low. So if this were like a 1, 2, and this were 3, and we're looking for the end of 4. Whoops. And I have hotkeys for all these buttons, which is really nice. Okay, there's the high right there. All right. So I'd be looking for it to come down to the bottom of that channel or that center median line there. Okay, and this is the ABCD projection with the fibs and whatnot. All right, so for the historical bars, because we're not connected to data and we don't have any ticks coming in, I have this little notify button here, okay, which will recalculate all of those readers inside of that Bloodhound template, which is really pretty cool. Okay, so now, and this, you only have to do that if you're trying to do back testing or some of this manual testing. Like I said, in real time, it's updating with each incoming tick. All right, so this is showing me that I have a couple of bars touching those areas, that that channel line for these few bars. They're either touching or within range. Okay, so that's what we're using, that reader system, to access the market geometry. We're also using, it's essentially the same system. The different pieces, they share like a common core. So we're using that as well for the volume analyst, the divergences pro indicator, and of course it's the same in Ninja 8. Okay, and we're actually able to use that to access the values of any other indicators or any type of a tool that would generate a signal or set a data series that you can access, okay, from any chart in real time. And what's really cool about this, the main problem with multiple time frame systems is obviously the testing, right? The back testing. If you're trying to run a back test and you're using a higher time frame and you're getting a signal, whatever, some indicator or whatever is setting a bar to a certain number or value that you're then using as an input for your system. Well, historically, if say that's a 15-minute chart that you're accessing, and maybe let's just say you're using a 1-minute chart where your strategy is, but you're accessing the signal from that 15-minute, well, you'll get 15 1-minute bars that get that signal. Whereas in real time, the signal may not have occurred until after or right at the close of the bar, or maybe 1 minute before the close. So you really have no way of making a back test line up with how it would perform in real time. And that's what we've accounted for with this. So rather than using the bar from the higher time frame, we're actually able to use the bar from the chart the strategy is on, from the chart that the reader is on, which is, inside of the strategy. So that's a really huge breakthrough. Now, with the volume analyst, you can't quite do it the same way, because with these readers for the market geometry, we're actually accessing, essentially lines like the trend channels or the median lines. And when price is within, say, in this case, it's about a third of an average bar size. So since we have that threshold and we're comparing one indicator, or let's say price, to a line, we're comparing two prices together. We can use this bar from the reader chart. So we can do a lot more, since we're not actually setting each of the higher time frame bars to a signal. I'm probably confusing you here, but long story short, we can make this incredibly precise for accessing the market geometry. But when it comes to accessing the volume, it was quite a bit trickier. And I mean, I've designed a system here to account for it, but it's accurate. It's much more accurate than, what we normally have, what anyone in any platform, using any platform, would possibly have. It can still be a bit more precise, but it's just probably going to take me, I don't know, another week or so to design the system, and then take the guys probably 2 weeks to code it. So we're getting there, but it's still, to be flawless, it's still a little ways off. But just to kind of describe what I've done here. So let's do this. This is a 5-minute chart. Actually, let me use a larger one so you can really see the difference here. This is really cool. This makes just makes it all so much more accurate, especially for historical signals, so that you can actually do, proper testing. All right, so, man, and these are the two trade types I think are pretty much done. And this is for the master suite owners, the guys that own, the full suite of tools. Excuse me. So in here, I have two different trade types, and I'll get to the example I was about to show in a second. Let me just kind of describe what you're seeing here. So this is on this 2-minute chart. Whoops. I have two trade types built out here. Okay. It looks like one, but it's basically two variations of one trade type. And this is looking for much larger reversals. Not really accounting for trend at all. I'm not really looking at, whether the market is moving up very quickly or moving down. This is all purely looking at volume and momentum divergence. And that's all it's doing. There are a couple of exceptions for really huge selling or buying climaxes, which is, I'm sure, what's giving the signal here at the low yesterday. But yeah, so this is two different trade types built out. Okay. And these are the signals that we've had just from that. And that's not including the market geometry. That's not including direction. It's not really including much of anything. It's I don't want to say simple, but it's, for lack of a better word, it's as simple as I can make it, while being as accurate as possible, if that makes sense. So it got the high here, it got the low there. Looks like it was early here, but that was that huge overthrow there. That must have been news. I'm not sure. I was building all this stuff out rather than trading. So it's kind of been the story of my life lately. Yeah, you get some weird ones in the middle of the overnight session. That was decent there. And this is, the fast 2-minute chart, but it is accessing those different time frames. There's a low of the day there. So it's a pretty exceptional signal, this one here. And I've got that on all the markets that we trade in the trading room. But what allows me to get very precise with these signals is this new thing that we've built out here. So if I grab one of these, let's see, I'll grab something from the 15-minute. I'll just create a new one here. So I'm copying that, and then I'll add it to the template here. Uh-oh. There we go. All right, so I'll set this to that big climax bar there. What I have here, are you guys able to see everything? No, that's actually the opposite of what I was trying to say, Tom. This is only the volume on this one. So right now I'm just doing it. We already own everything. Right now I'm just doing an overview of everything that we do, and then I'll get into the specifics of the volume here in a minute. So I'm setting this to that climax there. So this is the property that I'm talking about, this 50%. What this does is enables me to cut out the first half of this bar. So when I access this 15-minute bar, I'm going to get signals on the faster chart, this 2-minute chart, for the entire 15-minute period. But I don't want that because that climax signal couldn't possibly have happened within the first half of the bar because of the way that we've designed it. It can't give that signal until half of the bar has been met, has passed. And that's for all of the charts that we have, for the row bars, for the tick charts. It's a pretty elaborate system to account for that for the row bars. But anyway, so now let's see, what is that? 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, no. Let's see here. Okay. Yeah, that's the one right there. Okay, cool. Let's see here. Give me 1 second. Just recalculating. Okay, there. So this bar closed, the previous bar, at 12, and this bar closed at 12:15, right? So normally I would get signals over here on this chart on the right from 12 until 12:15. Okay. So because I have that property, I'm able to cut out the first half of these bars. I mean, I can set it to, anything that I want, any value that I want. So I'm able to actually get the signals properly from the higher time frames without, sometimes, let's say if I were accessing this big, massive climax down here, and let's say this was a 1 minute chart, that climax starts at 28:26, let's say. So that means that I would be getting signals for these first 5 or 6 bars here as well, which historically, if I'm doing a back test or, whatever, trying to visualize what I'm building out to make adjustments, on the fly quickly, I'll be getting those signals where it wouldn't be possible to get those in real time. Does that make sense? This is not a very easy topic to put your mind around until you've actually worked with multiple time frames. Hopefully that's jiving with you. All right. So anyway, that's just a little bit of an overview as to what I've done here. So I've split out the market geometry from the volume, from the templates. And then let me show you what I do with Blackbird now real quick. And rather than fully automating everything, is really, I'm not quite there yet. I still have some things that I want to get done before, I try to go completely fully automatic. So rather than going completely automated, I'm using Blackbird here to automate the trade management, but to still retain that level of discretion. So, I mean, I have Bloodhound set up on these 2 other charts to show me when certain things are coming together. And I'm, continually monitoring the charts and marking them up and, waiting to identify that next setup. So rather than letting it enter fully automated, I'll enter it manually, and then it will manage the trade from there. Okay. So the way that I have this built out, and these are all the same settings in Ninja 8. So we have the same capabilities in Ninja 8, but we have a few other new capabilities in Ninja 8. So the way that I have this set up, I'm sending in, rather than sending in a market order, I'm sending in a limit order at market. So it'll be, if the most recent price or the most recent order was buying at ask, then this will go in at the bid if I'm buying, or go in at the ask if I'm selling. So it's like a 1-tick limit. So trying to avoid, slippage, but still get filled. And then the stop is going in offset by average range. And I'm not using average true range because it includes the gaps. And sometimes we have, pretty big gaps, and I don't want to include that in the calculation, obviously. Excuse me. So I built this, really simple little average range indicator without including the gaps between the previous close and most recent open. So anyway, that's the initial 4 times the average range, and the first target is 12. So on. I'm not going to go through all these different rules, but what I have built out here are multiple different trailing conditions, and this is where it really gets very interesting. And it's I don't want to say it's really difficult to put these things together. It's just the level of complexity that you can achieve with Blackbird is really just endless. And, you may come up with something pretty crazy that you want to do, that you can do, but, it might just, it might take you a little bit to figure out exactly how to do it. But what I have built out in these templates is I would say it's a pretty solid set of, really advanced conditions and some of the more general types of things that you would want. So I think it's a pretty good thing to kind of learn with, and then you can run with your own conditions and whatnot after that. So the way that I do this, I'll enter the trade manually, and then I'll attach my stop to one of the areas in the market geometry. So if I want to attach it to this line, then I'll just change the color of that line and the order will attach to it. Okay, even though it's on a different chart. So those little reader indicators are kind of feeding the price of these lines to Blackbird so that it can set the orders according to those values. Does that make sense? Pretty high-tech stuff, really. So beyond that, I've also got a, so they're just two orders. I mean, you can split this up. You can make it float. You can make it auto position size according to your account here. There's a lot of different things you can do with this, but just simply with two orders, I have it split out like this. And then if I want to trail one of those stops behind the volume profile, let's say behind the VWAP, like imagine I, imagine I bought this low here and I want to trail one of those stops behind that volume weighted average price there or something. All I have to do is draw that volume profile from, wherever I entered, from the swing low that I bought or the swing high that I bought. So if I draw that profile on this chart, and I've got it, dark blue so that for sure that this is the one that you put Blackbird on. Then the order, that stop from order set 1 will attach to that line. Okay. And it'll offset. So there's a lot of different things that you can do with this. I mean, it's really pretty endless. And the profit targets will also trail, and they're trailing right now just simply according to whatever area that I've set. And I'll set those areas based on a color, this target's color here. Okay. So that's kind of the gist of how I've put all this stuff together in Ninja 7. And now now that we're on Ninja 8, starting to move that way finally, after months and months of programming. Let's see, kind of a mess here. All right. Let me just see if I have any questions really quickly while I'm getting this set up. Yeah, lots happen, Jordy. It's a daily, that's kind of the way development goes. Fix something, something else breaks. Figure out something else is broken, then you fix that, and that's just how it goes. It really doesn't even, there's really no point in even asking when it's, going to be done, because I really have no idea. But today, it's finally in a releasable state. So the only problem left really for now is really kind of fine-tuning the Bloodhound templates and the Blackbird templates, which I was trying to do before I sent it out. But it's pretty, the Bloodhound template, the actual entry template, is pretty amazing, but I haven't had time to really define these order trails. Right now, I just have some basic trailing rules built out in here. So nothing too extraordinary as far as the trade management is concerned right now. But the actual template for entering the trades is finally done as of just a little while ago. All right, so let's do this. I'm going to crank this thing on. Hang on a second. Yep. Sorry, one second. I've still got this thing connected that I meant to delete. Okay. Just to show you this. So the readers are completely real time. So everything that we're doing is on a real time basis with incoming ticks. And because of that, you'll get, if I don't do it this way, you'll potentially see some signals historically that you wouldn't see in real time. I mean, that kind of goes back to the thing that I was starting to talk about when I was showing you that 50% property that we've added to eliminate the first half of the higher time frame signals. So that's kind of a deep topic with multiple time frame systems. I'm sure some of you guys know what I'm talking about, but because this is real time, I need to split it out into basically two different confirmation rule sets here. So one is for real time and the other is for historical. Okay, so if you're running this in a live market environment, you'll connect it to this one. I've named it twice. I've named one real time, one historical, so you'll easily be able to see the difference. And I'll finish the guide once I'm done uploading it here. But if I didn't do it this way, then you would see signals historically that you wouldn't necessarily see in real time. So that should be good. I'm not going to try to explain all this stuff right now, obviously. Pretty advanced, I tell you. All right. Nice. Okay, it's working. I'm just going to recalculate one more time just for good measure. Market replay is an animal. I thought I was going to have a heart attack messing with this replay. It's really temperamental, but I think I've finally nailed it down. Yeah, and see, that's another thing. When you're running market replay, you get certain signals in real time, you get certain signals historically that you don't really see out of the market replay. It's like, I mean, I know the data is a little bit different, but it's like every time you connect to market replay, it's a little bit different than it was before. So it's like, in real time with real data, this is a big volume divergence right here. And with market replay data, it's not quite that way. But anyway, it's these little nuances that you see after a while. So yeah, because of that, that signal's not firing again. But see, last time I connected to Market Replay, it all worked just fine. But this time it's like, I don't know. It's a little bit of data missing or something. Pretty strange stuff. Anyway, it's supposed to buy right there. And I'll connect it back to the live data feed and show you exactly how this thing works. It's similar to what I have in Ninja 7 for the master suite owners, but it's not looking for those really massive trades that I am in that other template in NinjaTrader 7. This is looking for, it does find some trades that are a little bit, how would you say, sizable, I guess, but it finds more that are kind of intermediate, more like what you're seeing right here. So let me just kind of set this up a little so you understand what I'm doing here to some extent. All right, so I'm starting with that row 1 chart that Blackbird is actually on, which is this chart. And what I'm doing to get that value, well, let's kind of put it like this. The starting value that I'm determining is from this chart, this tick chart. Let me show you how I do that real quick. So we built out this little time frame tuner thing, which you would think would be easy to do, but nothing is easy to do. And what you can do with this is determine for volume and for tick charts. It's got some other information down here as well, which we'll add more to later once we get everything else done for Ninja 8. But you can essentially kind of set a target minute period here, and it'll spit out the number of ticks that you would want to use to sort of emulate that 2-minute chart. And I'm setting it for the day session, so for the RTH, regular trading hour session. And I'm using an average of the past 10 sessions or 7 sessions, whatever. In this case, I'm using a target minute period of 2 minutes. And then I click on that calculate. I'm not sure how it's going to operate when I'm connected to Market Replay, but it did fine, I guess. So yeah, 1,529 ticks for the ES is approximately going to give about the same number of bars on average as a 2-minute chart would during the regular trading hours. So that's how I set this tick value, and you can change it, however often you want. I'm going to start doing it about once every week or 2. And then from there, I'll use multiples of that to set the other charts, which I'll show you here in a second. So yeah, I'm not able to do exactly everything that I wanted to do, but that's kind of the way it goes for me lately. But this is, it's nothing compared to what I was dealing with for the last webinar, which was the middle of June. It's a huge improvement from that. The thing I'm having trouble with really is more kind of getting Blackbird sort of tweaked out and working properly. So it's in beta, and the majority of everything is working flawlessly, but because of the sorts of things that I'm doing with it, which is really kind of taking Ninja to its extremes, I'm probably hitting some of the things that were next on the list to get tested. So anyway, yeah, it's been a little bit tricky though recently. So what I've got from that 1,500 tick, which is about a 2-minute, I multiply that by 3, and then I get the value for this tick 2 chart. Okay, so I've got several charts, but you don't really need to use, like I'm not using the 30-minute chart inside of Bloodhound on at all. It's more for kind of visual and drawing the market geometry, which I'll show you in a second. So the ones that I am using though inside of Bloodhound and Blackbird are these 3 right here. So the 1500 tick, which is tick 1, 4500, which is tick 2, 3-minute. Okay, this is using the ETH session, and then the 15-minute is using the RTH session. Okay, I'm not actually using the 15-minute inside the template now. I was before, but it just wasn't necessary. So I'm mainly using the 15-minute and the 30-minute and this tick 2 just for drawing the market geometry. Okay, they're not really inside of the templates as of yet, at least for the couple of trade types that I've designed in there so far. And then I'm executing on this row 1 chart. Okay. So inside of the template, it's kind of like a progression depending upon the size of the trade, like how large the pullback is, the size of the swings, a few other different things. That kind of determines which charts I'm using to confirm the entry. Okay. And this right now is only 2. I've got at least 2 more to go to finalize it. I'm not going to try, again, I'm not going to try to explain the rules, the exact rules to you right now, but let me show you the toolbar a little bit now and kind of set this trade up a little bit. So on the 30-minute chart, I was just kind of playing around with a Bollinger Band on there, seeing if I could make something decent for a different kind of a trend condition. But here, let me show you. So with this new toolbar for Ninja 8, we have to have this little link indicator, which gives this floating window access to the charts. This is not the most recent version. The most recent version doesn't, I'm not able to use it yet. So I can't show you. It's not in a state that can be used right now. So anyway, this in the future will automatically add that indicator, that link indicator, without even reloading the chart. So you would, if you don't have it on a chart, you would just click the button, and then once you start drawing, it would automatically add it to the chart. So pretty cool stuff. But anyway, because of the way Ninja 8 is set up, that's what we've had to go with, this little link indicator here to connect, because in Ninja 8 we have what are called add-ons, and this floating window is an add-on. And to be able to get that to communicate with each and every chart, it's virtually impossible unless NinjaTrader opens up some, they would have to make a couple of changes for us. So this is the best alternative to, redesigning NinjaTrader. All right, excuse me. So anyway, all we have right now are just a couple of basic little tools here, and they're not really anywhere near finished, but getting closer. So to set this up, I mean, obviously the ES has been moving up just dramatically for a while, right? So essentially, you see what I'm doing. I'm drawing the trend channels and the median lines at the same time here. So what I'm doing is just identifying the major swing highs and lows, and it's kind of how support and resistance works. It's all the future supply and demand support resistance is a function of the preceding areas. And that's a pretty easy thing to prove to yourself if you're inclined to do so, but this is how we define the areas that we want to trade. And that spot where I'm actually entering was right up in here. Right? So we'd already been moving up pretty dramatically. The last major turn was up here, and then we've just had a little retracement. So just to kind of zoom in into that. Again, just going from the major swings. So there we've got that big reversal up again from another major swing. See that? So we've turned up here, and then we get that little ABC down on the faster charts. So, I mean, we've already taken out some pretty major highs. The market's been screaming to the upside, shallow retracements, extended moves back in the trending direction, which is up. And I'm sure there are some other areas that are coming in here. See, we hit the top of that channel perfectly, though. So that was kind of making me want to look for a lower high yesterday, and I was talking about that, and then I ended up buying it and taking a stop on an attempt long rather than taking that short that was pretty obvious before the room opened. But anyway, let's do this now. So that's the 30-minute chart, and then I would just work my way down. And this is the RTH chart, the regular trading hours. Yeah, I've got to add that indicator, right? It's not automatic yet. Not for me anyway, but it is. I just don't have that version yet. There we go. Yeah, so I'm just kind of defining, mapping it out, figuring out, you know, direction basically, where are the major areas that I want to trade from. And yeah, there it is. So we've turned up on a pretty beautiful volume divergence right there. So that's a big selling climax, a little sign of strength back up, and then it comes down on less total volume. That's not that's a decent one. It's not exceptional. It's not really a huge amount of volume, but 152%. So that's relative volume, right? We're looking at the total amount of volume, raw volume that traded for each individual bar, each individual bar's period, time frame, and comparing that to the average volume for that time period of that bar. Okay, so that's way more accurate than looking at the raw volume data. And this is one of the major patterns that we look for right here as well. So those are the two main ones, volume divergence, and then these big 2-bar patterns. Big buying climax followed by a churn bar. It's an obvious sign of supply coming in right there. All right, I'm sure you guys can tell I'm pretty much totally exhausted here. But anyway, that's kind of how I'm running down through the charts. And then, you know, the way that I'll send it out is for now, I'll have a drop-down template where what you'll be able to do is, I mean, you can leave it set to both because I do have some trend conditions in there, but let me explain what I'm saying here. Actually, before I do that, let me show you this. So this is a 4,500 tick chart, right? I think I showed this for just a moment on Thursday. This is what volume would normally look like on a tick chart. Like so, typical very high volume at the close. The fact that we can even do relative volume on a tick chart at all is really, I'd have to say it's the biggest accomplishment I think we've made. Well, it's one of them. The toolbar, being able to access those areas from, yeah, okay. The readers are definitely the biggest accomplishment, but as far as another major industry first in the trading world, having relative volume on non-time based charts is a huge development. So there's really, it's way more accurate than I even imagined it would be. So let me just show you this right there. So at that major high, I mean, you can look at the volume per tick, but it doesn't really tell you much, does it? So that's a big buying climax. It's a fairly wide range bar, but it's a huge amount of volume when you compare the amount of volume to the average for that time period, for the time period that makes up that bar. Okay, and then the next bar is a narrower range churn bar. So you got the big buying climax there, and then the high density churn bar. So it's a narrow range, very high volume, such high volume that it's very high volume per range, which is what we're calling the density of the bar. So when you get this kind of 2-bar pattern here, this big buying climax followed by a churn bar, it's a pretty good sign of supply coming in. Okay, and then when you see it followed by an even larger churn bar, an extreme churn bar, so it's a huge churn bar, that's a pretty obvious sign that you've run into a brick wall, and it's, you know, not going to move very much beyond that unless the buyers do overpower these guys, but it's pretty obvious resistance there. So you will see a lot of these 2-bar patterns at major lows. 2-bar patterns were extreme churn bars. Now there also is this volume divergence. And when you see a volume divergence end on a 2-bar pattern or a churn bar, that's a pretty exceptional volume divergence there. So the fact that we have all of this completely automated now, it's really nice. Really nice. And there, that's that high or low on a huge extreme churn bar. But what do you see here in the raw volume? Nothing. It's useless, right? And yeah, you got really high volume here at the close, but when you compare it to the volume that typically trades at the close, it's really not very high at all. So this really is my favorite favorite tool for sure. All right, so the way that I have this as far as the trend is concerned, I added in a 3-minute chart, and this is the thing that Jeremy will have to sort out with the multiple time frame stuff. I didn't realize this until, you know, I was trying to make this. I could have stopped yesterday and just wrapped it up and, you know, put it together and put it up on the site, but it wasn't as good as it could be, and I wanted it to be perfect, I guess. If you can die from perfectionism, I think I would have done it by now, but I don't know. Maybe one day. So I'm wanting to get this thing really dialed in, and I think I've finally gotten there today. And I will go ahead and upload it. Probably take me another 3 hours, 2.5 hours to finish the other few workspaces. Now that I have the kind of prototype here with the ES. So, you know, it was decent. It was actually really pretty good over the past few days, but I've been tweaking it, trying to make it better and figuring out some issues with it and, you know, making it better. And one of the ways that I did that was by adding in a couple of conditions for trend based on these Donchian channels. So a Donchian channel is just looking at the highest high or lowest low of a look back period. And I added that to the 3-minute chart instead of the row bars, because the row bars are built from a blend of tick data. You see the range there. You've got the R minus, that's minimum range, R plus, that's maximum range. And the minimum ticks, minimum seconds, maximum seconds. So those are built as a hybrid bar type. They're kind of blending those three together, where this is a, each bar is a minimum range of 1, a maximum range of 9 for the entry chart. So you see like this bar right here was split in 2, so that if you were getting a signal short there, otherwise, with a minute chart or tick chart or whatever, this would be a huge down bar. But I put a maximum range of 9 on here so that it'll never be, larger than a 9 tick bar, the range of it. Okay, so because this is a blend of tick and minute or tick and seconds, I don't know for sure if I'm counting the bars on this row 1 chart, if I have the donkeying channels on it, I don't know for sure, is that the highest high of, it's the past 500 bars, but is that the past 2 hours or is that the past 8 hours? I have no idea of knowing that. And what I wanted to use was the highest high of the past day, so a rolling 24-hour period, and then a rolling 6-hour period. And that's what I've added here to this this 3-minute chart. So I've got one set to a period of 480, and then the other one set to a period of 120. Okay, and I use this. I will kind of explain this to you because this is really cool about Bloodhound. Let me do this. I'm going to actually disable this so I don't have to, so you guys can see the racing stripes better. If I wouldn't have added this, and I feel kind of bad about it because kind of, I don't know, I'm not doing this thing justice right now. I feel like because I added this thinking that it would be fine, and it has made the templates way better. The trades are much cleaner and just better. But I didn't realize that Blackbird was not yet handling these multiple time frames that I added in here. Historical, there we go. So it's really my fault, and I'm kind of ashamed of it. Because this really is, the most incredible piece of programming I've ever seen. And I don't say that lightly. This thing is really pretty spectacular. All right, let's do this. Normally what I'll do actually is put it on the same panel as the volume. And I like everything nice and clean. And just remove the labels there. Okay, so now that it's up, let me just disconnect replay and show you the actual, the way it'll look normally with real data, live data. All right, let me see if there are any questions while this thing is loading here. How hard is it to add a 2-minute chart to David is asking, how hard is it to add a 2-minute chart to a 15-minute chart and have the 2-minute signals pop up on the 15-minute? It's kind of the other way around though. So typically you want to bring in your higher time frame signals to a faster chart, but you can do that. It's just that the way it would work would be, historically, it wouldn't make any sense at all. But in real time, you could make it, you could put one of the readers on the 15-minute chart connected to the 2-minute chart, and it would just display, an on or an off kind of a thing. So 1 or 0. And essentially what that would do is it would stay for the entire length of that 15-minute bar. So if you had any of those 2-minute bars that fired a signal during that 15-minute bar, then that 15-minute bar would, get the signal for the entire bar. So yeah, that's kind of why you normally want to do it the other way around. Access the higher time frames from the faster chart. All right, I'm just going to reload this now. I've got a lot of days on this chart, so it takes a minute to load. There it goes. That wasn't too fast. It was just a few seconds. The more days you have on the chart that the readers are on, a little bit longer it'll take to recalculate. Typically, if you're going to run this in real time, you'd have less than 6 or 7 days on it. But if you want to do a little bit of back testing, you just have to wait 10 seconds or so. Depends on how many days you have back. So anyway, let me open this up. Hope I'm not boring you guys. This is pretty advanced stuff here. Giovanni is asking, are we able to use something like extreme climax churn bar as a trigger to get out of trades or take profit? Yeah, absolutely. And we'll add those in together right now, actually. Let me show you this, and then I'll show you how to do that, because that's the next thing that I have to add in here anyway before I upload this to the site. So a couple of things that I added in. Yeah, works just fine in Bloodhound. It's just I think that extra data series messes up the threading, it's tricky stuff in Ninja 8. Dealing with multiple time frames and all this is a deep subject. So I added in these two where I'm accessing a Donchian channel 480 with one and a Donchian channel 120 with the other, which would be the 480s in blue, the 120 is in gray here. So what I'm doing with this, and I'll have to reload it now because I added in a new template. So what I'm doing with this is checking whether the upper line is moving higher or whether the lower line is moving lower. Let me show you what I mean. So this is one of the better trending type conditions that I've figured out over the years. It's kind of difficult to get any kind of moving average based trend sort of conditions to test very well, to back test very well. But this is one that typically does better than most others. So what I'm doing, this is a really cool little function node here. So I've got an indicator A. Let's start right here, which is right there. Okay. So the way that I have this set up is I'm comparing the upper line for long, the lower line for shorts, and then I'm comparing that to the value of the upper line for long again, lower line for shorts, but comparing that to the previous bar. And I'll get a long signal when that upper line is higher than the preceding price of the upper line. Okay. So that'll give me a long signal every time we have kind of a new breakout above the Donchian channel. And what I'm doing from there is I'm simply pushing that forward. I'm forcing that signal on via this toggle until the opposite signal comes in, and then I force, if a short comes in after I've forced it long, the long will cut off and the short will turn on, okay, until the next breakout above, which would happen way up here, depending upon, how many more bars it takes to do that. So I've got one like that set to the 120, the other one set to the 480. And then I'm using the 480 down here for this larger trade. And then I'm using the 120 up here for this faster trade. Okay. And then these are the different conditions for whether it's real time or historical. But this is what threw a monkey wrench in the whole thing today and yesterday. I just had no idea what was going on until I finally figured it out about 30 minutes before turning on here. Okay. So let's do this. Let's build that out. Let me show you. I'll do it to where we can, and we'll just kind of do this for the next 15 minutes or so. Let me I'm so out of it here. Give me 1 second to show you at least what's going on here and what we're offering. So normally what we do is focus on the entire suite, the master suite, all of our tools, as that's what we're using in the trading room. And that's really the way in Ninja 7, everything that I've designed has been designed around all of the tools combined in one package. So that's normally, how we'll do webinars and kind of market occasionally, as I so rarely do. But what I'm doing here is giving you guys access to what I've done here in Ninja 8 with the volume analyst, which, the templates are pretty close to what I'm doing for the entire master suite, just missing the Divergences Pro and obviously the toolbar solvers and objects. So to start with the master suite is it's a pretty hefty initial outlay. And what I wanted to do for you guys was, for those of you who are interested, who aren't already with us, let you guys get in at a pretty hefty discount and get all of these templates, which I've put together, which I'm I'm definitely going to put them as a separate edition for future guys that come on, future payments, future purchases. So those will be a separate add-on once I finish this thing up, once we get kind of everything wrapped up for Ninja 8. So what I'm doing is basically letting you guys get in for just the volume analyst, and then, either together with Bloodhound, or if you already own Bloodhound and you want Blackbird, you guys can get a really huge discount on Blackbird right now from Shark Indicators themselves. Normally, we'll offer kind of a package with their tools, because that's, everything that I do as far as automation is concerned is designed around Bloodhound and Blackbird. But they're putting on such a huge discount that if you want Blackbird, which it's a pretty amazing tool, then you want to get it directly from them. Okay. So if you're interested in Blackbird, you definitely want to get that from them. And what we're going to do is lock you in for this price minus, what we'll do is we'll lock you in by subtracting the total cost of what this would normally cost from the master suite cost, so that if you want to join later, you don't have to do it all at once. You could just buy a piece at a time and you'd be locked in at this price and not have to worry about missing out. I think this is a really, if I could have just one tool, it would be the volume, and especially the way that it is now in Ninja 8. In Ninja 7, I would say the market geometry. But the way that this has evolved in Ninja 8, this would be what I would start with, because volume is rather, it's a little tricky to wrap your mind around exactly, how it kind of, the interplay between the multiple time frames and the way that the volume shows up between those time frames and making sense of that is a little difficult. And rather than, a lot of guys, not a lot of guys, but some guys that, come on that have no experience at all trading and they start out with us, they get kind of overwhelmed. There's so much content, so much to learn, and it can be overwhelming. So like this, you can start off learning the volume, kind of master that, focus on just learning that over the next couple of months, and then come back and buy a piece at a time if you like. So I think that's a pretty solid way to get started with this, because when it comes to really making sense of the markets, that's really what it's all about: market geometry and volume. And to this point, no one's really done volume, at least in my mind, to my thinking, not to my satisfaction. So it's one of the things that I think people like to think they understand what it's all about and how it operates, and what's useful and what's not. But I think it's pretty misunderstood. And what we've done with it is pretty groundbreaking as far as I can tell. It's quite amazing, actually. Let me, I don't know what is going on here, but my chat is not working. And I can't send you guys the link. Anyway, I'll mail it out to you with the link to the recording. By the way, the recording is up on YouTube right now. So if you're just coming in, you can go directly to the YouTube channel and watch it right now. So it's just our website, and it's right there on the products page, the volume analyst. So from the drop down, just click on the volume analyst, and those are the two options there. All right. Marketing is not my strong suit, obviously. So let's do this. I'm going to crank this thing on, and I'm going to show you how to build out some exit conditions here. Okay, let me rename this at least. Actually, what I'm going to do, yeah, let's do this just to make market replay way, way faster. I think we've figured something out too. So you know how if you guys are using the current volume analyst, if you're connecting to replay, it can take a little while to get to the time that you want to start at because it's cycling through every single tick. So I think I was talking to one of my developers a little while ago, trying to figure out, how could we get around that? And I think we figured out a method to kind of disable the volume analyst from having to be calculated while that action in market replay is occurring. So I think that'll speed it up in market replay quite a bit, because it is kind of tedious having to wait for it to get to the actual date, your starting date. All right, let me close this. right, cool. So let's just do 2 charts. Yeah, market replay in Ninja Ninja 8 is a little funny. We may just build our own. Wonder how long that would take. All right, so with these row bars, I'm setting minimums and maximums here for each of these different settings. I'm just going to completely disable. No, I'll put a minimum range of 1. All right. You can type stuff in quotes in there, huh? Huh. Right here? Yeah, it shows it up there in the top, though. Huh. It's weird. Oh, what was that? Yep. Huh. That's pretty neat. I didn't even know that. Cool. Yeah, exactly, Garrett. So that discount would be factored in. If you want, very specifics, or sorry, very detailed information on it, then you can write in and I'll kind of itemize it out. But yeah, it would be, let me just think, it would be at least $750 off of the total package. So, yeah. So I'm throwing in the row bars and these templates and some of the training into this. It'll make more sense when I send out an email. I mean, I should have had all this really clearly defined in the webinar, but I've been focused on trying to get this thing actually working exactly the way that I've intended it to, and it's taking a lot out of me. All right, so that's the 3-minute on the left. Let's say that we'll run, well, we better just start kind of where market replay starts, which would be the 25th. Yeah, it would be right here. So let's say that I want to exit based on exit based on a 2-bar pattern or something on the 3-minute. Yeah. All right. So let me show you how to do that. So let's crank on Blackbird, and rather than using Bloodhound, some really advanced template inside of there, let me show you this. Just make sure I got it right here. Yeah, I'll just go ahead and design it right here, and then we'll connect to market replay. I know that matters right now. Okay. remove Bloodhound. Okay, I'm just starting with a blank template here. So let me just show you how quick this is. So I'm just going to add it, add the reader, which is here, set the chart. Now Ninja 8 is kind of weird. It doesn't update the properties grid until you refresh it. So you have to close it and then open it back up. We may be able to figure out something to get around that, but that's kind of the way it is for now. Let's see, I'll set it to, rather than 50%, I'll set it to like 33%. This is not applied in real time. So obviously in real time, you want to get the signals, exactly when they occur. This property is to offset a percentage of the higher time frame bar for the historical signals so that you're not getting a lot of signals that you couldn't possibly get in real time. Okay. So this is not actually applied to the real time signals, to the, live trading. All right. So that 2-bar pattern right there is what we're trying to access. Let me change that to the 2-bar pattern here. These are the different data series that you can access, the volume divergence setups, the triggers. That's the actual value of the relative volume. This is the upper range high, which I'll show you in a minute, lower range low, volume spike, combined barcode. That's you see there's a fat bar and then a skinny bar. The fat bar is the density, which is relative volume per range. And the skinny bar on top is the actual relative volume. So we've layered those and combined them where you can have, a high density climax, an extreme density climax, and so on. So that's what that combined barcode is. Primary barcode is the actual relative volume. Secondary is the relative density. We're going to use this 2-bar patterns data series, which would be that bar right there. So it's a churn bar following a climax, which is what that is right there. You've got an extreme density churn bar, so very, very large, very high volume per range. And then preceding that, you have a high density extreme climax there. You see? I feel my voice starting to fade here. So I think it's 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's going to be a. So each data series has its own values for the bars, depending upon the signal. And I want to say this is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's see. We'll know pretty fast. Actually, no, it's all 2-bar patterns. So it's starting at 0. It's starting at 1. Yeah. I'm sure that was confusing, but it's all in a user guide. Actually, it's right here. This is not how it would display for you guys, but basically this is the members area. If you own a product, then it'll show up in color. If you don't, then it'll be black and white. It's showing all of these for me because obviously I designed it. So yeah, this is the volume analyst page. This is the downloads page for NinjaTrader 8. That's the change log. Look at all that. And that's really not even the half of it. So ton of fixes. It's finally working properly. Difficult thing was that relative volume for the tick charts. I mean, that's really pretty tricky stuff. And, we'd fix one thing and then break something else and fix it again and break something else. So that's the downloads pages. We got all the training sessions here. This is the user guide, which I'm updating now for the new readers, the way that I've designed the readers, and then these Bloodhound templates. So here, I've got a list of all the data series, and you can download this. Yeah, primary barcode, bar patterns, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. Okay. It's taking me so much time to get all this stuff put together. And that's from the 3-minute chart. Huh. There it is. There we go. Okay, so now we're looking at, you see all these little signals here, the little brown ones? It's showing both long and short for the same bar. Okay. And then we would get direction out of that based on, we could do a couple of different things. We could look at the spikes. So for instance, if there was an extreme spike or major spike at a high, which we had here, we had an extreme spike in the volume. So I'm looking at the spikes independently from the climax and the churn signals. Okay, so regardless of, if it's a climax or a churn bar, it's going to show the spike, even if it doesn't occur with a climax or a churn signal. Hey, Rob, did you raise your hand? You were trying to ask a question, maybe? You guys are still seeing everything fine? Yeah, okay. All right, cool, let's do this. All right, so I'm gonna add in, I'll just copy this one actually. Change that to spikes. Set that to like 20%. And again, that's only for historical. It doesn't matter in real time. It's not applied in real time. So +3. So briefly, the spikes are anything that has a negative with a positive will give you both long and short. If it's just one direction, it's both, it's on or off kind of a thing. But if it has a negative, then it also has a long and a short, just to show you what I have planned here, because I'm sure you guys are interested. I've got it all laid out. It's just a matter of, programming it out now that we've really finalized all of the internals of this thing. Now I can actually start adding in the stuff that I wanted to. So I jumped the gun thinking that we were done and saying, we're all ready and we're good to go. And I'm going to add in all this awesome new stuff. And then we basically hit a brick wall and ran into all sorts of issues that, I couldn't see coming. So there is a pretty awesome thing I've designed here. Well, I'm going to add in the stops and targets like I have in Div Pro as well. Huh. Yeah, this is it. So what I'm going to do is have, for all of these individual signals, you'll be able to design exactly what you want, even if you don't want to design it. I mean, it's going to be way better. I'll have it so much more precise as far as differentiating between different types of climaxes and different volume divergences depending upon different conditions and whatnot. But this will all be accessible for you guys. It'll almost be sort of like Bloodhound built into the volume analyst, but without all the drag and drop stuff. I'll have it to where it's all values based so that you can optimize it. So that's the direction that I'm moving in, getting it to the point to where you can use it in a strategy, but also optimize the settings. So I'm going to expose all of the conditions and then add in, multiple options for each signal so that you wouldn't have to necessarily be married to what I've designed, but you could actually design your own. So that's the next major thing that'll be happening here. So it's all the work is kind of most of the design work I've done. Now we just have to kind of go over it and figure out how to best program it. I don't know why I showed you that. I just figured some of you guys were probably interested. Done a lot of work. It's all coming together. It just always takes longer than I think it's going to take. Oops. Okay. All right, yeah, so this one's showing the spikes. Right. And now we want to combine those two together. So let's say exit at on a 2-bar pattern from the 3-minute chart only if you have any kind of a spike, minor, major, or extreme on one of the preceding couple of bars, let's say. Okay, so that's pushing this forward, this look back. It's going to push the signal forward. Let me show you what I mean. There we go. All right, so this is volume spikes by themselves. You see we get the long and the short. So this is the signal right there that we're looking at right here. So that is the 2-bar pattern that occurred on the 3-minute chart. See? That's actually the spike it's showing. So now when I connect it with the 2-bar pattern, there we go. So that will be the exit right there. So we'll use this as an exit. Okay. And what do we want to use? Actually, I didn't need to save it like that. 1 second. Okay. So that'll be the exit. Now let's make a little simple entry. Let's say that we want let's just enter right there. We'll enter on volume divergence right there. we might want to do this sooner back here so we don't have to wait so long in market replay. Yeah, whatever. All right. Sorry, I'm going back and forth here. All right, we'll just enter right there on volume divergence on the actual row one. So I'll copy one of these again, and I'll set that to row one, vol div setup. Should have copied the spikes because it's already set up for what I need, but -1 for longs. Sorry, -1 for shorts, +1 for longs, which is what I'm setting here. So this is the values that get set in the data series for the bars. So a bar will give a -1 for a short signal, volume divergence, short volume divergence at a high. And it'll give a +1 for a volume divergence at a low. Okay, and then I tell Bloodhound to give me a long for this value, and then give me a short for this value. That's what all this means. It's pretty easy once you work with it a little bit. Okay, and I have to reset this now because I just copied it. Oh, I didn't change the data series. Okay, so I'm changing this from 2-bar patterns to volume divergence setup right there. And actually, I'll enter on the trigger. I guess it doesn't really matter which one. This would be it. Maziar. This would be the minimum. This volume analyst. The trade, exactly like I'm trading in the trading room, you would have to buy the full suite. But just, if you had just one tool that you could get started with, it should be this one, the volume. Okay, I'm going to change this to the trigger, actually. There we go. I'm going to set that to 0 because it's on the same chart. So anytime I have a reader that's on the chart that I'm accessing the indicator of, from which I'm accessing the indicator, you want to disable that. And it's disabled by default usually, but I mean, I'll have the templates all set up like that for you anyway. And then I just want to make sure that I've got the chart set here. Row 1, panel 1, volume analyst. Okay, and there it is. Oh, I forgot I got to use the calculator, the reader manager. I forgot when the reader's on the chart, the same chart, you have to recalculate it here. There we go. For the historical signals, not for the real time incoming signals. Okay. All right. Let's set this thing up and run it in replay then. Okay, cool deal. Okay. That was let's see. $14.27. $14.24. All right, so I right click on here. Well, first of all, let's set it to the 25th. And then, no, I just messed it up actually. There we go. So we want to go to 14. Yeah, it looks like 25 maybe. Okay. All right, so now it's going to cycle through all the ticks until it gets to that date right there. Well, it should be. What's going on here? There we go. Okay, now it's cycling through all those bars. See if you guys have any questions while this is happening. They're in the they're on the website. Oh, you mean for Ninja 8? You have the NASDAQ templates for Ninja 7, right? They're up on the website right now. So if you go to the master suite, this file right here, it's an executable, but it's not a program. It's an archive. All it does is move the files into the right folder. So you just download that and then double click on it to run it, set the NinjaTrader folder here, and it'll move all the workspaces and templates into the right folders. And it's got, I didn't get that in there yet, but it's got 12 markets in there. It's got the YM, NASDAQ, ZB, FDAX, ES, crude oil. It's got everything in there. That's what took me so long to get that up. It's a pretty big ordeal. Yep, you're welcome. Richard, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you'll get the update to Ninja 8 for the toolbar for sure. We'll have probably an alpha version. I'm hoping the end of next week, but I mean, every time I set a date, I'm never able to make it. So maybe the week after that. But we should have kind of a basic functioning market geometry tool and fibs and maybe the alerts and some other basic stuff. But the full system, the full toolbar will probably take another month and a half. It does work, but not not perfectly. All right, so let's enable Blackbird. I gotta set. This is the main thing. You have to make sure you remember setting the right account here. On each tick, it has to be on each tick for the readers, and then enable it. Okay, so now I'll click on this order settings button here. And I'm going to create a new one from a Bloodhound template. So I can get really, really fancy with this, but let's just kind of do something, not so crazy. So for the entry, you can set the entry and the exit from the same template, which I'll do here. But I can also set different trailing rules. I can use Bloodhound templates or, actually just the reader itself as a trigger for any kind of trailing rule or so all sorts of stuff I can do. So let me just kind of do some of the basics here. Yeah, I can allow it to upscale, downscale. Let me just turn some of that. I'll leave it on. Okay. So I've set a maximum number of trades to 3, the account size to 60 grand, and risk per trade of 2%, whatever. Let's say 1.5. That's not what I meant. There we go. Okay, cool. And then for the profit target, so this is where you can get really, really detailed with it. I mean, I could make it to where my initial, I could set this exit to nothing and then just use trailing stops and set a fixed target. And then when the condition occurs, use that to actually close the trade. So I think I'll do that in like the next training session. That's a little more nuanced. It's kind of like scaling out. It's basically just collapsing the order when a certain thing happens, just moving the order to the market price when a certain condition happens. Yeah. Okay, cool. And then when we get the the indicator reader. So we have the readers for the volume analyst. When we get Divergences Pro over here on Ninja 8, we'll have the readers for it, but we also have an indicator reader, which can read any of the indicators from any other chart. And that's probably going to be one of the next things that I put over to Ninja 8, because it's the core of it is essentially done. So it shouldn't take too long to get that. But with that, I'm able to use the ATR from any other chart. So I can keep this faster row bars chart as the entry and management chart, but then set the stops and the targets based on, the average range of, say, the 3-minute or the 5-minute or whatever. All right, so I'll just leave it simple like that for now. Let's check it out. I'll go ahead and do twice here, and I'll copy it. And I'm going to push these out a little further so you can actually see how it closes the trade. And then if I want to trail it, I'm not going to worry about that just yet. Okay, that one's -3. We'll leave this one -5. You see how it automatically adjusts whether you're long or short? So if I'm going long, this is based on long factor. If I'm going long, then I want the stop -5 times the average true range below the entry price. And then I can set that based on, any price or any other indicator, even a swing point, which is built into it, even a linear regression channel. So, or obviously any other indicator that you have that you want to set it to. Sorry, I'm so lethargic today, guys. I'm really just worn out. I've been working myself just ridiculous, but you can see it's all coming together. For those of you that are members, owners of everything, you can see how it's all finally starting to come together. And I've got about 5 other guides that I'll upload to the site tomorrow. So I've got quite a bit of stuff done. Everything's done for Ninja 7. It's a massive major update. Ninja 8 should be out in, I'll definitely get it up before 7 tonight. And I've got all the free indicators included with that. I've got the average range, the counter, which works for the row bars now, which is pretty cool. And this chart label, which is actually a pretty elaborate indicator for a free chart label, but it's a pretty cool system. It uses Ninja's kind of built-in system that it uses for the chart tabs. So those 3 are in the installer as well, those free indicators. So it's all coming together. It's just taken me a while, but it's worth it. It's pretty exceptional programming. All right, let's do this thing. I didn't recalculate. Yeah, there we go. I like to drag this thing down so it doesn't take up so much real estate here. Okay. Let me just make sure this thing is working right here. So I got the 2-bar pattern from the 3-minute, entries from the row chart, volume divergence. Just check these real quick. Yeah, it's all good. All right. Okay, so I can show either one, the entry or the exit. I'll just show the entry for now. And then just make sure that I tap this recalculate button. You can make this as small as you want. I'll probably add that to the toolbar like we do in Ninja 7 as well. Or add a hotkey to it so you don't actually have to keep that up. You can just tap a hotkey. All right. So the next volume divergence on this chart on the right will enter the trade. I think it's in about 7 or 8 minutes. Suresh, I'll go over that before we call it a day. We'll take a look at the higher time frames in the ES. It does kind of look like it made a pretty significant top there, but it's also at a really nice area for some support to come in, especially if it makes one more little low. All right, so I could use, if I'm doing all this manually, I can use this dynamic planner here, which is really pretty awesome. And I can scale in now too, so you'll see me do that here in a second. But this dynamic planning is what I use. Whoops, let me back that thing up. Hang on. I think I have it to not allow me to move the stops. That one's a little tight. You see how it automatically set the number of orders? So it did that based on that floating trade management deal, the money management. So if I open up the settings from here, because I let it, I'm sorry, they're right here in the order settings. Because I let it allow upscaling and downscaling, and you can set the ratio here, whether it's, you know, you favor more for order A or more contracts for order B. But because I allow it to upscale and downscale, and I set an account value here, which I'm sure will be automated in the future, he'll just connect that to, you'll probably just be able to connect whatever account over here on the panel, I would imagine. But yeah, you set it manually for now here, and then your risk per trade. I'm just thinking now, there are a couple of different ways you could do this. Yeah, anyway, I'll write all that out. Maybe he can add a couple of options in here so that you don't have to use just, you know, fixed percentage of your account or fixed amount per trade, but you could let it, there's a lot of different things you can do to make that more specific. And I've got my minimum reward to risk ratio. So, you know, by default, it's already at over 3-to-1. So they're going to allow every single trade. But if I had it where when I entered, the target would go set to a specific indicator's value, And then my stop would be a fixed number of ticks behind the entry. If that distance to the target wasn't 2 to 1, then it would ignore the trade. It would pass it. So I've set order set A and order set B to a one contract, one contract per order set here. And it's entered 4 per order set based on the money management and the size of the account. Okay, but I think I don't allow the moving of stops. I can't even remember where that's at. But whatever, we'll just let this first one get ticked out if it does. And then I'll scale in on the next signal. So yeah, just got taken out of the first stop. There's the lower median line hit. So that's going to be the area where you would expect support to come in, as it does there. And now I've just added to the position. So it actually added automatically. Now I can disable that, not allow it to do that. But the way that I have it set up right now, it's allowing that. So let me scale in here. Oops, sorry. Okay. It's not pulling back now. There we go. So I just got filled on a scale in. This is really awesome. I asked him if he could add this in for us. I know we've been talking about it in the trading room for a year and a half or two. And last time I talked to Jeremy about it was just a bad time. I mean, he was just getting started on Ninja 8. And now he's at the point where he can start, factoring in some of these ideas from everyone else, all the users. So this was one we've been wanting to do for a while because we are using it in the trading room mostly as a kind of a semi-automated, I'll control when I enter the trades, and then some of the management is automated. And then I'll determine, which area my stop or target will get attached to or trail behind for the stop or inside for the target. I'm going to execute 2 more right there. So I can increase the size. And I can see it's planning it. And that's exactly the same as the dynamic planning. And then you execute. And now it's a limit order sitting there, you see? So now I just filled it again. And I can move these stops in favor of the trade. Now, these that I scaled in, I can probably move. Yeah, okay. But I mean, anything that you can think of, you can do. It's just exceptional what he's done here. I can't even believe that he's been able to do as much as he's been able to do with it. Let's see what happens here. And then, of course, these scale ins, I can have them use a predefined, whatever order set. Let me see that. I started messing with this, and then I had to finish what I was doing. So there's your scale to fit. That's the floating, number of contracts based on your account size and risk tolerance and all that. Let me see something here. I want to say that it uses Order set A. Let me see here though. I'm not entirely sure, but I imagine it uses one or the other. But he can add in an option to let us choose that if it's not in here already. I'm not really seeing exactly. Anyway, I haven't had time to really get into that as much as I would have liked to, but you can see it does let you now scale in, which is a huge thing for us because of the way that we use it. Really is pretty awesome. Then I'll just let it get stopped out of that last one. Yep, and that's it. Pretty cool tool, isn't it? It's just something else. Pretty awesome. All right, you guys have some questions? I'm really just about out of it, and I got a lot of work to do to get this stuff up for you guys on the site. Thanks, Giovanni. Yeah, I was gonna go over some of the track record, but I ran into so many brick walls trying to get all this stuff done that I really didn't even prepare much of a proper presentation. So I'll do that next time, I guess. I'm not really. I don't know. I'm just trying to get all this stuff done so that I can be done with it and then start working on a proper marketing plan. But it's kind of difficult when stuff doesn't quite do what you're trying to make it do. And then, I get into these weird obsessive types of can't move on until I figure it out. And it's like my Achilles heel, I guess. The exit, Giovanni's asking, this exit strategy would also serve to keep the stop from alerting market makers as well. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people, I guess I should be careful how I say it, but excuse me, I've seen it kind of be a crutch for people where they kind of assume that somebody's like hunting their stops. I mean, I know that happens, right? Of course, but in the ES, if you've got your, one or two contract trade, a market maker is not going for your one or two order stop, but most people do kind of put them in the same place in similar spots. So yeah, I mean, it can be an issue, but I think it's not as much of an issue as people think it is. I think it's just kind of the natural order of how markets operate and trading in general. It's very difficult to prove an edge, to actually figure out something that can make money consistently over time. And when we start losing money and we start taking bad trades, we kind of look for something to blame it on other than ourselves. And I don't know, I've heard a lot of people talk like that. And you know what I mean? So, but yeah, I don't know why I got into that. I'm not trying to say that that's what you're saying. I'm just saying that, be careful you don't kind of get into the whole they're out to get me kind of mentality, because trading is kind of hard enough as it is. But yeah, your order doesn't have to be sitting there when you have your, really well-defined, if you have a really strong exit. And you can actually put multiple exits in here. I mean, I've got some templates that have, 6 or 7 different possible exits that if this or that happens, then, exit with these conditions. And then if this and that happens, exit with these other conditions. So you can get really, really intricate with excuse me, the amount of exit strategy you want to build out in there. And then of course you can add any of that or all of them separately with as many different trailing rules as you want. So let's say that I set this custom, sorry, and then add a rule, and let's delay it. Let's wait till I don't want to use ticks. I'd rather use an ATR there. Let's just say after 30 bars, then if this happens, bloodhound signal, let's just imagine I have something built out here. If this happens, then move my order to the last price would close it. Or, you know, maybe you want to tighten it up and offset it by, here, I've got a little average range indicator. Let's say you want to offset it by 2 times that value. So if I'm long and I'm, you know, if this is actually for a trail, so it's a little bit different than what you were describing as far as having the order not sitting there. So what you could do, kind of the opposite, would be have the order go in, but just go in really far away. You know, like put it in way out there. So you can have the initial one go in at like 20 times the average range or something, and then do your trail to tighten it up to, you know, to market, or maybe just a little bit above market so you can hopefully get a few more ticks out of it or something like that. So let's say you offset it by 2 average ranges there. And you would use the last price, yeah. Or the close of the previous bar, anything that you want, really. You can offset it based on anything. So it's quite endless what you can do with this. And I would say allowed movement only against the trade for a target. Well, for this one, I mean, I allow movement with the market geometry because the market geometry is a developing area. So I allow it to move both directions for the trailing of the profit targets with the market geometry. But for the stops, I only allow it to move in favor of the trade with the direction. So I'm not going to let a stop loss order move away from the entry, only towards it or through it. You know what I mean? Otherwise you could keep moving it further and further away and just blow your account. So man, this thing is really pretty cool. Anyway, I finally have the stuff that I've been wanting to do built out, and you guys will have that up on the site within the next 3.5 times at 3. I'll have it up by 7 Central. So within the next 4 hours, I'll put it up on the site. All right, guys, I'm exhausted. Y'all have any other questions? Did the X, I kind of forgot about that. Let me see. I had moved it up higher. You know what it was? I didn't get that churn bar until right there. So had it hit the target by then? Let's see. Can I show? I have to reload it to show the orders, and I don't want to reload it. Maybe that's okay. Let's see. I don't think it did fire there. The bloodhound signal definitely fired, so hmm. To be honest with you, I haven't quite tested that in a while. I normally use the trails. But yeah, I'm not quite sure. I mean, I could run it back, but it's already 3 o'clock. But yeah, I'm not exactly sure what happened there. I think I was starting to already try to scale in when that happened. So that might have disabled the exit because I had this dynamic planner on. I kind of forgot what I was doing when I started messing around with this dynamic planner. So yeah, I may have messed it up. Giovanni, you own this stuff, right? You want this template? Vadim, do I take vacations? I'm actually going to go for a couple of days, August 3rd for the weekend. Go get some sun on my fat belly for 3 days. When you scroll back, the average range disappears. No, that's not normal. I haven't seen that happen. Uh-uh. Send me your trace, but yeah, that shouldn't that doesn't sound like, I mean, the average range, it's like it's nothing. It sounds like an issue with drawing, like something strange on the chart, or I don't know. Yeah, so let me see here. If you guys, for some reason, I don't have the chat working here. Let me see if I can turn it on. You can see the link here though, right? So it's just the website and then go to products and volume analyst right there. So this is including the row bars with the volume analyst and then these new Bloodhound and Blackbird templates, which I've been developing for a while, and it's finally come together here. So these will be a separate product once I've finalized all this. It'll be like an add-on. Let me see here. Nah, I don't know. I've messed this webinar thing up evidently. I'll send out an email with the details though. Okay, thanks, Richard. All right, you guys, I'm gonna wrap it up here. Yeah, I'll send. I'll beef this thing up a little bit so you guys can have. Actually, I'll just add in some proper exits into the main templates. Otherwise, this is just kind of nothing really. So I'll add some of these more advanced exits. I mean, that's kind of what I planned on doing before I uploaded anyway. So let me do that, and then I'll get everything uploaded and maybe go sleep for a few days. All right. If you guys have any questions, feel free to write in or give me a call. Let me see. My number should be on the site. at the bottom. Yeah, there's my phone number right there at the bottom of the web page, any web page on our site. Or you can write into support or just click on this contact. It's at the top as well, and you can fill this out if you have any questions, okay? And then I'll send out a link to the recording. It's actually up on YouTube right now. J-Rock Live, what in the world? Good deal. Yeah, so Trade the Plan, YouTube, there's the recording there. And I'll send you a link here in a little while. All right, and then I'll let you guys know when I upload it here shortly. All right, I'm out. You guys have a good rest of your weekend, and look forward to an email from you here shortly. I'm sure I missed some questions, but I'll go back through them and write you an email if it's looks like an important one. Good deal, Mike. Yeah, and the toolbars had a massive update as well, so it's working flawlessly now. And then our analysis, where we're exporting our analysis directly to your charts, will be, it's essentially live now, but we're going to kick off the first official free month starting the 1st. See, this is the auto analysis deal that we have where we're, I told you guys I would go through the higher time frames real quick. Let me do that for a second. Yeah, so everything that I'm doing as far as analysis on my charts, I'm able to export it. And then it'll go directly to whoever's signed up for that. So for instance, let me go through this real quick. Okay, so yeah, everything that I'm doing on my charts, I'm then able to export. So for some reason, my hotkeys aren't working right now. Huh, how bizarre. Yeah, so see, I click the export button, and then everything that I draw on my charts will then show up on everyone else's charts. And then it also takes a screenshot and uploads that automatically to our Slack channel here. Right there. Never seen one do that before. That's weird. Huh. I think I need to restart my computer. But anyway, that's kind of what we're about to release here. It's already released. I guess we're doing the first free month starting Wednesday. So yeah, as far as the ES, it looks to me like we've put in or pretty close to putting in a significant swing high. Still kind of thinking we may just, work right up through that, but That's definitely the first major spot, but it did hit today or yesterday. It did hit the low, the bottom of a pretty important little channel. Let me show you here on the tick charts. I'm just trying to see if it's lining up here as well on the minute chart. Yeah, you can see the bottom of that one that we went through a little bit. So that's the first major spot where it would find support. It's kind of back inside of this. I imagine that's a pretty high volume node there. Yeah. So you're back into all that volume. But yeah, I mean, it's looking like it's hit some support. That is a pretty fast move down. I kind of got burned here. I was buying that right there as what I was thinking was maybe a final little ABC before the final wave up. And then it just went straight down. So I was thinking we had one more little wave up and then we'd turn down fast and hard, but it's already done that. So it does kind of make me wonder whether it's put in that high here. And now we're going to go down for, maybe the bottom of this channel down in here. But this is the first major spot it's got to get through. There it is. This was the major channel that we hit right there. So if it would come down and do one more low and maybe hit that median line and just tick out the low, then we'd have a pretty good looking swing low, which I imagine would give a sizable push back up. So yeah, we'll start doing this kind of higher time frame analysis again soon, where I'm just doing it live once a week, probably Monday evening, maybe Sunday afternoon late, something like that. So we'll start doing that together with this analysis service where I'm exporting everything for you guys. Pretty cool that we can do this now. So we've got a lot of industry firsts here. Floating toolbar, the fastest application of market geometry. Audible email alerts on any line, accessing any of those lines from any other chart, any strategy. By far the most advanced volume analysis available. And now with Blackbird on Ninja 8 and getting our tools ported over to Ninja 8, it should be pretty amazing here once we get finalized with the toolbar and the Divergences Pro and all that. We should have the highest trader tech available. So it's coming together. Hopefully one day I'll do a decent presentation though, huh? We shall see. All right, you guys have a good weekend, and I'll get that stuff up for you guys, you members here, by 7. All right, y'all have a good one. Yeah, there's a link to that, Tom, on the site. If you go to the trading room here, we're getting a bunch of stuff up on the site now. So if you guys want to check back every few days or so, there'll be more and more updated content on there. So this is how I do the settings. And these are the current values of the workspaces that I uploaded. So this is how I get the settings with the time frame tuner. And then here is a write-up for the bars and I'll get the new downloads for the bars up here shortly. I thought that was done this morning. Yeah, so these are the details of how the bars are created. So it's coming together. This is what I'm uploading tomorrow. I've got a lot of guides I've got to get up. And this one has to be changed slightly because I added some nuances there. Wouldn't believe how long this guide took to write. Yeah, this has changed just a little bit. So I got to update that as well. All right. Any other questions? Yeah. Yeah, this only just went up yesterday. I'll send out the email once I get the other guides up, which should be tomorrow. All right. Y'all have a good evening. Cool. Bye, everyone.